At the end of World War II, America was by far the richest and most powerful country in the world. Probably it was also the most powerful country ever seen in human history, enjoying a relative military power that even the Roman Empire could never have dreamt of. The historian Stephen Ambrose captures that moment well. He said, by 1945, American production had reached levels that were scarcely believable. The United States was producing 45% of the world's arms and nearly 50% of the world's goods. Two-thirds of all ships afloat were American built. American prosperity soared even more after World War II. Indeed, the 25 years of prosperity enjoyed by America after World War II came to be known as the golden age of capitalism. Real per capita income from 1950 to 1970 grew by 2.25% a year, and large numbers of Americans entered the middle class. This was sustained by a social compact of full employment, rising productivity, and wage growth. Increasing productivity was matched by increasing wages as workers were able to purchase the increasing amount of goods being produced. The American household became filled with all kinds of consumer goods and appliances, from the radio and television to the washing machine and dishwasher. This explosion of American middle-class living standards was a result of rising economic productivity. Equally importantly, it was also a legacy of the New Deal social reforms put in by President Roosevelt in the 1930s. He believed that economic growth was not just about making the capitalists rich. It was also about taking care of the working classes. President Lyndon Johnson's famous Great Society was also a continuation of the Roosevelt spirit, passing major programs such as the Civil Rights Act and the Clean Air Act. Geopolitical competition contributed also. American presidents from Kennedy to Nixon wanted to prove the Soviet leader Khrushchev wrong when he claimed that Soviet workers would enjoy better living standards. In their famous kitchen debate, Khrushchev said to Vice President Nixon, "America has been in existence for 150 years and this is the level she has reached. We have existed not quite 42 years, and in another 7 years we will be on the same level as America. When we catch you up, in passing you by, we will wave to you." Khrushchev was proven wrong. America performed much better than the Soviet Union. With so much of the economic and military power relative to the rest of the world, America could have easily abused it. Instead, in the immediate decades following World War II, America behaved with relative geopolitical restraint and shrewdness. Much of this was the result of the wise advice given by George Kennan, who formulated a comprehensive strategy on how the US should deal with the challenge posed by the Soviet Union. Professor John Mearsheimer describes well Kennan's geopolitical tendencies. He notes that Kennan also championed humility because he recognized that there are significant limits on what the United States can do to change the world for the better. For starters, he was well aware of the limits of military force. Future historians will note the sharp contrast between American restraint after the great victory of World War II and the recklessness after the great victory after the Cold War. We will discuss this in later lectures. America did fight wars after World War II, the Korean War from 1950 to 1953, and the more draining Vietnam War from the 1960s to the spectacular collapse in 1975. But the most dangerous moment America experienced was during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Historians have revealed that the US and Soviet Union came close to a nuclear war. Robert McNamara, Secretary of Defense at the time, said that they came very close to nuclear war, closer than we knew at that time. Arthur Schlesinger, historian and advisor to the Kennedy administration, said that it was not only the most dangerous moment of the Cold War, it was the most dangerous moment in human history. Fortunately, wiser heads prevailed. The UN Secretary General U Thant provided a face-saving way for the US and the Soviet Union to climb down. Yet, if America experienced its most dangerous moment in the early 1960s, it also experienced its most triumphant moment in the 1960s. America became the first country to land a man on the moon on 20th July 1969, when Neil Armstrong stepped foot on lunar soil with the famous remark, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." The 1960s was probably one of the most dazzling decades in American history. In the eyes of the rest of the world, it appeared to be a shining city on the hill, experiencing triumph after triumph, developing also the largest and most affluent middle class in human history. The world's most successful corporations, with Coca-Cola and Pepsi becoming globalized, the best universities, and amazing prowess in science and technology. The American dream became a global dream, with thousands of the best and brightest young minds around the world aspiring to migrate to America. The influx of the world's brightest brains gave American economic growth and productivity a further boost. Decades later, two Indian migrants, Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai, became hits of Microsoft and Google, respectively. America also generously shared its prosperity with the world, starting immediately after World War II. George Kennan advised America that it could only win the Cold War with allies. This is why America helped to rebuild Germany and Japan, the two defeated powers of World War II. It launched the Marshall Plan, extending foreign aid to rejuvenate the war-ravaged economies of Western Europe. In total, over $12 billion, equivalent to about $128 billion today, was transferred in economic recovery programs to Western European economies. America also provided the global reserve currency, pegging the US dollar to gold, and facilitating liquidity for global trade under the Bretton Woods system. Equally importantly, at the end of World War II, America took the lead and established a whole family of global multilateral institutions, including the UN, IMF, and World Bank. The rules and norms propagated by these institutions in turn provided the foundation of a rules-based order, which provided an enabling global environment for many states to also grow and prosper. When he addressed a joint session of Congress on 9th October 1985, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew said, and I quote, "America has encouraged a world which respects the sovereignty and the dignity of all, the great and the small, the mighty and the weak. A world which enables all to work and be rewarded for their efforts, because what they produce is desired by others, willing to pay for such goods and services under fair rules of exchange." Unquote. With so much working in favor of America, it may appear with the benefit of hindsight that its victory over the mighty Soviet Union was a foregone conclusion. Yet, as I lived in New York from 1984 to 1989, I know that not a single American or Westerner predicted either the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, which marked the end of the Cold War, or the subsequent collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. The sense of relief and joy in the US after this spectacular victory was clear and palpable. An American friend of mine told me that he was happy not to fear a nuclear war anymore. The only tragedy about the second spectacular victory America enjoyed in the 20th century is that while America behaved prudently and wisely after World War II, as advised by George Kennan, it became drowned in arrogance and hubris after the Cold War. This arrogance was best captured in a famous essay by Francis Fukuyama called The End of History. As I say in my book, Has the West Lost It? While Fukuyama was trying to put across a sophisticated message, America only heard one message. The rest of the world would have to adjust and adapt to the post-Cold War world. America and Europe did not do so. Sadly, the essay did a lot of brain damage to the West as it put Western minds to sleep at precisely the moment when China and India decided to wake up in the 1990s. Arrogance almost always has a sad ending. One statistic captures the sad ending of the American century. If America was the one country that did the most to improve the living standards of its people after World War II, it was also the only country where the average income of the bottom 50% went down over a 30-year period from 1980 to 2010. We will explore in this course what led to this tragedy, a sad sequel to the American century.